Welcome to Focus on Liberia. We are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Anthony C.S. sitting in today in this edition of the Hour of Politics. Welcome to our broadcast. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. In today's edition of our show, we have a very special guest. The guest having to be an activist, a philanthropist, and a politician. And momentarily, I will be introducing my guest to you in this edition of our program here at Focus on Liberia. We will ask you to do us that usual help by hitting the share button and sharing the show with your contact so that we can all have the opportunity to hear from our guest here at Focus on Liberia. And for your information, our guest is Madam MacDella Cooper. She is our guest in this edition of our show here at Focus on Liberia, the Hour of Politics. Yes, of course, you heard me. She is an activist, a philanthropist, and also a politician. And we are happy to have our guests here in studio. At this time, let me welcome our guest, MacDella Cooper. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's really good to be here with you.
All right. So a little bit about our guest. As I tried to tell you earlier, she is an activist in the area of human rights and also been advocating for social services to be provided for the Liberian people. The group that she has been advocating for the most part, having to be the youth, girls, women, and children. And she is also a philanthropist. She established the MacDella Cooper Foundation sometime around 2004, and that institution has been providing education for the vulnerable and less fortunate people, especially in Liberia, through the MacDella Cooper Foundation Academy. And as a politician, she was able to contest 2017 in the presidential contest there. And very recently, she also contested in the senatorial race that took place in 2019. Unfortunately for her, she was unsuccessful, but she continued to journey on. That is her life story. She never gives up. And so we are happy to have her. MacDella, again, I can't welcome you enough. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to our fruitful discussion with you. I know
Yeah, certainly.
there's so
So,
much
in
going
today's
on in the
edition
world
of our
today, and
show,
there's
here are the things we will be discussing with our guest. We will be looking at her political life, and also we will be asking her to give her assessment on the current administration, that is the Weah administration. So, let's get started. Before we get to the interview, something I want to know who is your role model and what may be a favorite quote of yours that kept you going?
wow, 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 wow. Now you're diving into the ocean here because for every area of life, I have a specific role model. But to shrink
Mm-hmm.
it down and to narrow it down, I would say my great grandmother, and I know that that's bringing it home. And most people who are watching don't may not know her. I know some of my family members are watching, but my great grandmother taught me a lot. So in the area of life and the strength I have, the ability to overcome any storm or any hardship, the ability to keep going and not limit myself because of what society or tradition or religion says. My grandmother was the epitome of what or I guess the perfect example of what I am today. So I think she was a huge in different areas. There is Pamela Brogdon, there
Mm-hmm.
is Maya Angelou, there is all these incredible women across the world who have inspired me in so many ways, but all to bring it home to be that strong woman that I am today, who was impactful, who was a stateswoman, who continues to fight for the rights of others, although I've already gained my own privilege in life. But I don't think that's enough to just sit back and say, I've gotten what I wanted out of life. Now I'm going to leave the rest to suffer. No. the continuation, even though I've gotten what I wanted out of this life, to continue fighting for, especially my country, the women, the young people, and the children. So I think my role models, like I said, it's like a wide ocean in different areas. There are role models for books that I read. There's role
Mhm.
model for my politics. There are role model for my humanitarian work. And so, with regards to a quote, I think it was Helen Keller. Helen
Okay.
Keller was a blind woman who was, had so much limitation, and especially during her time. But one of the favorite quotes that I have from her, it says, um, "Until you give me a reason why not, I will continue to move forward and fight." And so, until I'm paraphrasing it, but until you give her a reason why not, why can't things happen, she will continue to fight to make it happen. And so that's a quote that I live by on a daily basis.
So, in essence, are you trying to say, if I should push you to the politics side of it, that you keep pushing until you land that presidency?
Absolutely, no question
All right.
asked.
All right. Again, folks, we have a guest, and you want to be here in this interview. So let's get to it. The elections been over for a little while now. We
Yeah.
want to know what have you been up to? Now March, nothing, so to speak. We have heard from you. I hope I'm right. What's going on?
You're absolutely not right, Anthony. Um,
Okay.
I've been busy since 2017.
Okay.
Immediately after the election in 2017, I went around West Africa
Hmm.
with a company called UPAC. I went around Africa to tell my story, to inspire a new generation of women who were trying to get more women in African politics, or just in
Hmm.
global politics, in geopolitics. And so they brought me around the continent to really share, from Nigeria to Ghana to Senegal, across the world, to just share my story, to hope, at the hope of inspiring another generation of women who will take up the mantle to participate. Because as you know, the Beijing Conference of 1995, the
Right.
Beijing Conference asked governments across the world to include women in decision-making arenas. And today, the numbers are still very low. The numbers are still very low. Africa is at 14% of women participating in, I guess, continental-wide African politics. Liberia is about 11%, just about 11 or so percent. So it's the numbers are not increasing. It says 1995. We need to increase those numbers. So I did a tour around Africa in 2018. Um, in 2019, Geraldine Doe Sharif had passed away. And I took it upon myself to make sure women were represented in the Senate, because we had one lady that was going to be left in the Senate, which was Yumni Kaga Lawrence. And so I participated in that by-election after we unfortunately lost the senator. The times were, looking for something different. And so, of course, I didn't win that race, which is fine, because I received so many incredibly amazing letters from people who said, Madam Cooper, this election was supposed to be yours, but because of where this current administration is going, we thought it would make more sense to put someone in who would be a thorn on the side
Hmm.
of this leadership. And so I told people, listen, I'm just here to serve my country and do what I can to participate in any area where I can be of help to my country. So it's not about winning elections. I know many people who've won elections and have not done anything to move the country forward. So it's not just about winning elections; it's about winning the results that the country very much needed. And so after 2019, I stayed in Liberia and continued to tackle national issues. We're still facing a lot of crisis in Liberia. Now Liberia is back in a humanitarian crisis, and so I continue to talk about the issues, the issues
That's
of women participation, the
okay.
issue of lack of healthcare, the issue of a very poor and deplorable education system. So
And
I
we'll get to
continue to speak
those.
it. Sure.
And we'll get to those. And thank you so very much. I see that you've been busy. I didn't know that. I'm sorry that I've not been paying attention that much. But in 2017, when you contested, my
Yeah.
understanding is that you contested on the ticket of a party. Is that right?
The two parties. Let's be exact, Anthony. Two parties.
The two parties came together, and
No,
and
no,
and
no. Two separate times. In one election, I was on
uh-huh.
two different party tickets.
What is that?
Well, the usual game is that I look for political parties. A few recommendations came in for one particular party called the Union of Liberian Democrats. I looked at
Hmm.
the institution. It was a small, very humble institution. They
Right.
barely had any resources. And so I thought, well, I can do a lot to impact this institution. I'll invest in it, put some resources into it. And when I went there, met the people, they gave me the list of requirements to become a member. I filled out the requirements. I submitted my membership fees. I asked them if they were carrying anyone on their ticket. They said no, they were not carrying anyone on their ticket. I said, well, I would like to carry the party to the presidency. And we were all very excited. And they told me, well, this is what would be required to give you the candidacy, or at least for you to vie for the candidacy. I met the requirements. I paid my fees. And once I became a candidate, the story started to change. I brought this party from being a no-name party into the body politics of the international world. And so then when they saw the interest, I think they decided to pull the plugs on me, but they didn't know that I was heavily invested in several other political parties. And look, it's very hard to say that, but I have to tell you the truth, and that is the reality. And so when they tried to pull the plugs on me because someone else, another candidate, had given them some money to mess up my candidacy, but I knew I sort of I'm used to the political game. And so I saw what they were trying to do, and I just stepped away. The next day, I was a standard bearer of another party I was heavily invested in, and so that party also became they wanted to demand more money from me. I gave them money to do things, they wouldn't do it, and when I questioned it, they became very upset. But then I went through the elections on that party ticket, and so but they did also try to play internal politics, and that's a culture for women in politics in Liberia and young people.
And does they actually mean that politics is this game, using your word, that you have to use money to play? You can use money to twist arms and
No,
get your
not
way.
necessarily, but people bring that they bring that into it because they feel maybe if I make so much financial demand on her,
Mhm.
sort of tarnish her candidacy. Maybe she may not want to give them money, and then we can scream what is the word they use? Lack of confidence or something. They said they had no confidence in the candidate.
Yeah, vote or no covenant, something like that.
Exactly. And so
Mhm.
so they put all these financial demands. It's like every day you have to give money, every day you have to give money to the party. And so after a while, but it was a good case study for me, I must say. It was a very good case study. I didn't bring the cash violence into the game. I met the cash violence, the demand for money in the game. And so I knew that's
But
what
but
hurt.
you play along.
You have to play along. You have to play along. Absolutely. If you're not ready to play
Why
along,
you think you needed to do that? We're talking about change yet, Madam Cooper. So why did you have to play along when you know that game, though that is highest play, sometimes not the best option?
but you do have your limits. You all set your limits. You
Okay.
can tell how far you're gonna go with it within
Hmm.
legal realms, and you can say how far you're where you're gonna stop. And I
Right.
stopped where I thought it was getting out of control. For one example, I gave the team it's just about $75,000 to go open county offices across because as a presidential candidate, you have to have counties offices in all counties. And when I came to the party, they barely had any offices. But the gentleman who I gave the gentleman, the Secretary General, and those individuals who received the funds, they
Hmm.
did not open any office. When I did my tour around the country, there weren't any offices. And
So
so
do you feel somehow or partially guilty about this because you made the funds available so that the party will be able to get qualified to contest, and you
absolutely,
did so, and
yep.
knowing that that will lend you the opportunity to contest, and then the money was not used for a internal. Do you partially feel guilty?
Not at all. No, I play my part. You can't feel
Okay.
guilty when you've done it, when you've done what's right for an institution to stand. I believe in institution building.
Okay.
Everything I've done through my philanthropy, my politics, I've built institution that will stand and support individuals when I'm gone. And
Mhm.
so I will always invest in institutions. But individuals, there are a lot of individuals in the game of politics that do not believe in institution building. They believe, let me eat now
Right.
and so that the next person can come in and we don't know what that person is going to bring. MacDella Cooper is here. She has resources. Let's eat all we can eat from her now. And that's what they try to do.
And so two political parties, since you started your political journey, are you still with any? I mean, you left the other one. Are you still with the most recent one?
No, actually, Anthony, after the elections, I departed ways with that with those parties,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to the drawing table, and I decided to form a political party, which is the first political party in the history of Liberia to be established by a woman. I wanted to create an institution that would not put money first, that would seek out the right candidate and push the unconventional candidate, the young people who oftentimes I told to
Right.
wait their time, because the old men with money who establish these political parties, they only are there to accommodate their friends, other old men with money. And
And is
so this
that
is why
party registered now, Madam Cooper?
my political party has been fully registered. As a matter of fact, on March 20th is our anniversary. So we'll be hosting a ton of women from across Liberia to celebrate the Women's Political Party, because it was established by a woman. And
Mm-hmm.
so most people call it a women's political party, but it's not actually only for women. We accept men, we're especially young people living with disability, and people with different orientation. So we are an institution like what you see on that side where you are across the Atlantic. When you
Right.
come into a political institution, as long as you meet the requirements, you
Right.
pay whatever fees. No one has the right to ask you for anything under the table. And so we forbid any illegality or any foul play in politics, and we just go straight to making sure that you become the candidate that you feel you can be for the Liberian people. Because all we want to do is to see a better Liberia for Liberians.
And Madam Cooper, there are too many parties in Liberia.
That's right.
There are some Liberians. I feel that way. That maybe we just need to. Uh, do you sometimes feel that way, or you find no issue with us having these too many parties?
No, I don't have any problem against multi-party system.
Okay.
I think multi-party system is healthy, especially for a country. And this is going to be controversial because I know journalists tend to pick, or some people tend to pick things out of statements that is intended for one thing, and they can make big news from something you say that doesn't really was not really what you're trying to say.
Okay.
Now we have a country of five
Five
million
million
people,
people.
right?
Mm-hmm.
60% with adult illiteracy, right? Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
60% of our country cannot read and write.
Right.
You have 30 to 40% that can read and write. Now, so you have people making decisions not based on facts and research information, but people
Mm-hmm.
just some people conspiracy theories, some people just theories that doesn't really is backed by facts. And so
Mm-hmm.
people are gonna say, oh well, no, women are supposed to run for president, or this young people should go and wait their turn. So you have all these, all these notion and ideas that so people need to have multi-party system, in which the Liberian law doesn't allow us to create a party for one gender or one religion or one tribe. When you
Mm-hmm.
build a party, as according to the election laws, you have to build a party for all citizens of Liberia. So we are not a woman's party, but because it was the first party established by a woman with gender sensitive lens, so women are not
Mm-hmm.
discriminated against. Young people, especially, are not discriminated against. They call us the young people in the women's party. But
All
needless
right.
to say, to your question, we
Mm-hmm.
need multi-party system because we still have a lot of people who are thinking outside of the box in terms of thinking information that when they come to you, it will make no sense to you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they have the right to participate in our democracy, because democracy is of the people, by the people, and for the people. You have to give every citizen the chance to participate. Some people say, oh, that people that book people party, that Kungapo party, some people have these things where they feel they have to be boxed in.
Yeah.
But so we need a multi-party system, but not much, it's not the multitudes of parties. There are
Right.
26 registered parties right now. And I think we can reduce them to these collaboration that's being built now.
All right, folks, focus on Liberia. My guest is MacDella Cooper, former presidential and senatorial candidate. She is here. She's still on the journey. We are having an exclusive interview with her here, and I'm enjoying this conversation, by the way. So let's look at partnership. You know very well. A single party cannot win election in Liberia. That is what has been proven over time. Even the likes of Weah with the popularity in LA couldn't just do it alone. I don't see your party collaborating politically with any other party. You think you can do this alone with your party?
Well, we are, I tell people I don't believe in early child marriage, and I don't
Okay.
believe in early political marriage either. You have got to test the waters first. Yes, it's inevitable that we will have to build collaboration.
Hmm.
It's inevitable, no question asked. But we have to make sure we go into a partnership that is a partnership based on sincerity, based on the love for Liberia, and with the sole interest of liberating the Liberian people. Now, it has to be a partnership sans ego, sans this sort of interest in self
Right.
versus the people. It has to be about the people. And Anthony, I cannot say this enough.
Hmm.
I left the United States of America, packed all of what I had, what I had gained in America. Because I went to America as a dirt poor refugee. I made my own
Right.
level of success there. I
Right.
packed up everything. I moved back home, not because, I was looking for this ego extension, or I was looking for extended wealth that I already didn't have, or because I was looking for popularity that I could not build with a major agent, a PR agency in New York. Atlanta, New York, they have the best public relation agencies in the world.
Right.
And if you have the right resources, they can make you famous if you want. I mean, it's just that's how actors become, all new actors to be becoming popular actors, and beyond that. And so I moved back home because I had a mandate on my life, which was to go back home and serve the poor, the widows, and the orphans. And that's how I started my philanthropic journey. I took that philanthropic journey and I moved on to policy, influencing policies, policies on education, policies on healthcare, policies on economy, across the board. And so my being at home and vying for public office is my interest in a better Liberia, a better opportunity for Liberian people. And so I want to build a political marriage with some group or someone who has a heart for our people. For too long, one group of people thought Liberia belonged to them, and the rest were called heathens. I remember those days, in the old days,
Hmm.
when they actually called Liberians heathens. And that doesn't sit right with me. Now, when you failed to send a Liberian child to school under your leadership, and you only seek out opportunities for your own families or people who you like, you are not a true patriot of our country, because no child should be left behind. Being a leader means you have to have the part of every citizen born into your country. And for me, being home, my bathing out of buckets instead of cold or hot shower as I please to have in the United States, I am in my country serving. And I want to build a marriage, a political marriage, with institution that believes in that, not just looking for ego extension or presidency is just another title under their belt,
And
or
so,
having. So I'm looking for that group of people who say
and
Liberia first.
and are you
Liberia
seeing
first.
them? Are you seeing some of them in the political arena? Because you've been looking, from what I'm telling, I can see are you seeing some of those people? People who and you are like like-minded and open-minded about Liberia?
Absolutely. I must say, I have had the opportunity to meet some really wonderful people in Liberia.
Okay.
And I see that, but you have to look from every angle, because sometimes you get smoke mirrors. Sometimes you get people with the right intentions, but because they depend on other people to help them, so they have to go with those people agenda. I'm looking for people who understands one thing: Liberia is the only home we will ever have under the sun, and we must treat it as we would our own selves. So we need to. So I'm talking to people. I'm having
Okay.
conversations with different groups, with especially women and youth groups, and people who
Okay.
has a heart to understand the true meaning of democracy, the true meaning of equality, the true meaning of nation building. And so, yeah, those folks exist. But sometimes people like to play hardball. They want to be alone and do their own thing to get the glory, to share the glory with them and themselves. And so, for me, I don't mind sharing glory with anyone. I'm just here to put Liberia
All,
first. And
all right. The God Almighty does not like to share His glory with
exactly,
any man, but and maybe that's how some people are politically. They don't want to share that glory. But partnership is a good thing, you know it. I'm
absolutely,
glad that you have seen some people and maybe probably have started significant conversation in that line.
absolutely.
All right,
And you have
that
the whole
come to.
opposition bloc also, Anthony. You have the opposition bloc. There are a few good
Mhm.
men and women in the opposition bloc that we definitely are talking.
So the opposition CPP. is the biggest chunk of the opposition bloc.
Yeah.
What is your assessment so far? I mean, how you think they're doing? I don't. I'm not saying everything's rosy, but how they doing?
Well, they're trying their best. There are a lot of internal wranglings, and I hope those wranglings will be talked about and iron out. Other than that, we're gonna have a very hard time in 2023. Sort of knocking out this current regime, because this current regime is only serving themselves. They're not serving anyone but themselves, and so we need a strong opposition with the right equation. One of the things I will continue to say, and I said it then when
Right.
the establishment of the CPP institution, I felt you had Cummings, you had Yuri, you have Bokai, and who was the fourth person? There was a fourth.
Ure,
Cummings, Yuri,
Cummings, Boakai,
Boycott, and there was a fourth. Oh, Brumskin. Sorry,
Bros.
Brumskin. The late,
Oh
the
yeah,
late Brumskin.
That's Youngly now.
Well, I'm gonna come to that.
Okay,
So
okay,
at the establishment, these four old men with
okay.
money, the
Mm-hmm.
ones who feel they own the earth,
Mm-hmm.
they came together and they built this opposition bloc. And now, mind you, irrespective of what they think of MacDella Cooper, I'm one of the strongest female politicians in Liberia at the moment. And so for them to not even look at a woman then, I told them, I said, listen, guys, it didn't have to be me, right?
Are
Although
you
I feel
saying
I
they
wanted
didn't
to.
call you? Is that what you're
They
saying?
did not call. I never received a call from them. And that startled me a little bit, because irrespective of what they think or what, about women or McDella Cooper personally, if you're going to build a strong opposition bloc and you just got all these old men with money together, that's a problem. And I told them, you're going to make the same mistakes, and you're going to be, you're not going to go very far with this. You have got to learn from the mistakes of the past. You have got to build an institution that is diversified, right? That is diverse. You want to include women. You want to include, one of the issues I discovered with political parties across Liberia,
Tell
most
me.
of the constitutions of those political parties does not include women, does not
Really?
include young people, does not include the disabled or the people living with different orientation. It has a bunch of men on the executive councils, and then you have women wing, which is an extended auxiliary group. You have the youth wing that is an auxiliary group. So at the final decision-making table of most political parties, there are no women represented. Even the current ruling
Manakupo,
party.
let me push back on the issue of women involvement, women participation in these political processes and political parties. I tend to see that women are the one holding back for the most part. It's not that the men pushing
No,
them
that's
away.
what they would say. That's what they would say. Sorry, I have to adjust this camera here for a minute. That's what people like to say. But it is
Mm-hmm.
not true. Women are not the one drafting the political party's constitution. It is the men who are drafting these constitutions, right? And they're in a room with their friends, and they're drafting a constitution and not realizing, or maybe fail to realize, that women are half the population. You must be conscious about women's participation. If you have 10 seats at the table, you want to make sure you purposefully put seats there reserved for women. You want to make sure you put seats at the table, the decision making table, for young people below 35, not 52. 52 is not youth, according to the last
And
research
I
I
agree with
did.
that, Manakupo. But what is also wrong with women demanding that, young people demanding that? We should all demand, our equal participation in these processes. Don't you
Absolutely.
think so?
But we have a tradition, we live in a traditional culture. People use
Right.
tradition when it works for them, and when they tarnish it when it doesn't work. And so in this case, it is the men who first started drafting our national constitution. And again,
Mm-hmm.
in our national constitution, there is no reference to a she in the entire constitution. It says he. So even our own national constitution that give us the Republic of Liberia, women are not even mentioned. But because it was a bunch of men, when men were second gods on the earth in 1847, 1822, 1847, 1830, when they drafted the Constitution, they're the ones who took charge and said, we are the men of this republic. We will create the institutions. We will create the Constitution. We will create the nation. We will lead the nation. So because men started a problem, it's very important now that men find a solution to the problem, because we keep demanding. I keep demanding for my seat at the table. and they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? For 170, 73 years, we've always had it like this. Now you guys, you few women who rebellious want to come and take a seat at the table. So it's going to take a lot of us women to have the same experience that I had, to be able to build this confidence that I have, to come up to the table and say, I want my seat at the table. But how many women want to go to challenge the men of our country? Because number one, the thing we have against us, the economy of Liberia is in the hands of men.
All
And so
right.
the women feel if they make too much noise, they will not be able to
Mhm.
get the money they need or the resources they need.
All right. Thank you so very much. This is Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. hosting. My guest is Madam MacDella Cooper, former presidential and senatorial candidate, a humanitarian and activist, and also, of course, a politician. As you can tell, we're talking politics here. Madam Cooper, let's come to your platform. When you
Yeah.
contested, have your platform right here, free education for every child, universal health care, electricity in every home, decentralization, I like that one, land ownership. These are brilliant goals. These are
Yeah.
brilliant areas of governance. But because of time, let's talk about two, and then we'll get your assessment on the Weah administration. Free
Okay.
education. I know you started something there. You have the Mandela Cooper Foundation Academy. But
That's
what I
right.
want to get from you here is that Liberia is a nightmare in terms of our education and the institutions.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I feel that you are not loud enough.
Mm.
Tell me if I'm wrong, because we know what's going on educationally in Liberia. What do you say to that?
No, I listen, Anthony. I actually do agree with you, and
Okay.
I'm open to these suggestions because that's what will
Mm,
give me sort of let me know what my pendulum is, which direction my pendulum is should be going in, and so
okay.
that I can work on it. So I appreciate your
Mm,
comment there, and I don't I take it with heart,
okay.
because I should then I see that I should be a little bit more vocal with regards to our education system.
Mhm.
Um, Today, the education system is failing our young people. I've been heavily invested in the education world for most of my adult life.
Right.
I started the MacDella Foundation back in 2003, but it was actually officially launched in 2004. And I've been working in the education sector, at least investing in the education sector for so long. We could do better. The Ministry of Education right now is under the leadership of Dow Sony. And there's a big controversy in the country where the president said that he lied to him and forged documents or whatever the situation was. But he's not happy with the direction Dow Sony has taken the education system. But for me, I like to go all the way back. And
Mm,
if we're really serious about finding solution in our country, we have got to go to the root cause of the problem. You know, first of all, we have to make education mandatory. I don't think there should be one child left behind in Liberia that does not enter the schoolhouse. From the age of 5 to the age of 18, children must be in the schoolhouse. And again, I sort of took a halt during the coronavirus outbreak. I took a halt from the private school, investing in private schools. I moved into the public school sector because I know this is where the masses are. I was investing anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 a month on a private school for young people, orphans,
mm,
abandoned children, and
right.
those who just didn't have resources to go to school. And I'm going to take all my resources and go and build partnership with our public schools, fixing the libraries, putting chairs in place, hopefully giving more scholarships. And so that way, more children can have access to education through the public school system. I want to revise the public school system so because education in the public school system is government
Mhm.
responsibility. The kids have to pay a small fee of $3,000 for registration and other fees, but it's still cheaper than a private school. Every Liberian child cannot make it into a private school because
No.
we have an 85% unemployment rate, and so most
And
parents don't have jobs. Go ahead,
right.
Anthony.
No, I was just about to say, in terms of policy, this government, from what I see, is trying to put the emphasis on tertiary education as compared to primary education. Do you see what I see, and what is the drawback on that?
Well, I think we should invest in the future of our young people. We have to build human capital and
Mhm.
capacity. We have to invest in all areas of education. We can't depend on the primary school. You know, we have to invest in education across the board, from
Okay.
primary, early childhood education is critical. That's the most sensitive development stage of any person's life.
Right.
the early childhood education. Then you go into the, I mean, part of the whole primary education piece. We have got to invest in training our teachers, especially now we have this concept of volunteer teachers in the public schools. They need
Right.
a stipend to make sure that they can go back and forth from their homes to the school, so they are present on a daily basis. We got to make sure we put some seats and some resources into the schools, and go on to secondary school, preparing the students for the WAX exam, the WAS exam when they're finishing up. We have got to stay with these kids through the end. We can't just be lopsided and say, okay, let's wait until they get into high school and invest in them when we know
Mm-hmm.
they're approaching voters age, because that's what most politicians do. They invest in young people who they feel can vote for them,
Mm-hmm.
and leave the young, innocent children out of the equation. But we are not going to use government resources to invest in young people, I mean, in young voters that can vote for them. They should use government resources to invest in the future of Liberia, right? So that means starting with the early childhood education on to primary, secondary, and on. And even start making colleges affordable based on the current economic statistics of the country. We need to be able to fluctuate the fees. Not,
Right.
with this inflation, the school fees are going up, but people are not even making money to be able to afford the school. So I will go against any government
Right.
that only invests in secondary school education versus early
Mm.
childhood and secondary or primary. Sorry.
Let's come to funding education. I know Liberia is a poor country. I mean, a budget all the way around 500 million. I mean, it's just an embarrassment for us as a country, right?
Yeah.
But we have to work with what we
Yeah.
have. When you look at what's being allotted for education, administration by administration,
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
feel about that, and how can we make that better?
Well, let me say this. I don't hold me to this quote, but I'm going to research it further and come back to you with it.
Okay.
I was told that education on the line item on the budget for education is supposed to be about 60 million, but
Mhm.
education ministry is barely getting 10 million. And so that means if you have about 3,000 public schools across the country and you're
Right.
getting 10 million, that's pretty much nothing really, really to invest into our education.
Right.
The partnership schools are investing about $50 per child, and that's so low because other countries that are serious about education in the region are investing anywhere between $75 to $150 per child, and we are investing 50. And so we know the quality of education we're paying for, and that's the quality of future Liberia is going to have, right?
Certainly.
And it's a sad reality. And so we have got to do better. If the allocation in the budget for education is 60, where's the rest going if it's not coming to the education sector? We have got to do better. We have got to put more demands on our leadership to take our country seriously. And that is why, for me, it was so important that we debate the issues prior to being elected into office. Because if the issues are not debated or talked about, once an
Right.
individual gets into office, there's so little you can do about their being in office and without a plan.
On decentralization, so that we can get to your assessments on a weird administration, I'm looking at your plan here, and let me read something for you.
Sure.
Ms. Cooper's commitment, advancing a system of good domestic governance that accelerates social economic development. Ms. Cooper will promote and implement effective decentralization as an integral and necessary element of reform. Additionally, programs associated with the adoption and implementation of these reforms, including civic education research,
Yeah.
will be supported by adequate human and financial capital. What I'm
Yes, sir.
asking you to do for me here. We are here, we are fortunate, or you live in the United States. We see how city government, work, county
Yeah.
government work, thereby
Yes, right.
releasing, the burden. And we have counties.
Yeah.
So what you're saying
50 of
here,
them.
explain it to me, the common man, to understand why you saying in terms of decentralization here.
Well, Monrovia is the capital, is the political capital, and now the financial capital,
Right.
and even the social capital of Liberia. So everything is in Monrovia, right? There
Right.
are a couple of things with regards to decentralization. Everything is in Monrovia. So most places in the outskirts, you have to come to Monrovia to get a driver's license, to get a
Right.
death certificate, to get a marriage certificate, to get
Mhm.
everything. Most of the agencies have not been put into the different counties.
Right.
Or if they're there, they don't function. So you still have to come to Monrovia to get those things, those sort of documents you need, birth certificate that you need to support anything you're trying to do. And
Right.
also, decentralization, giving local government the power to run their jurisdiction, giving local government the power to manage their resources because they know their communities, they know their counties better than the head who sits in Monrovia.
Right.
And so decentralization works in so many, it works in a positive way in so many ways. If I may be repetitious there, because number one, if you have everything, including the power to operate in Monrovia, first, we don't have good roads leading to Monrovia out of the outskirts from the counties. I
Right.
was just in Bapaloo County, and I was trying to get to the town that is bordering Sierra Leone for an election process that was happening there.
Right.
And my car, I took a new Nissan Patrol. When I returned, my Nissan Patrol was completely damaged.
My
Luckily, it
God.
got me to my doorstep in Monrovia. The roads conditions are deplorable, deplorable. And you have big government officials that are from Bapaloo, and yet still the roads are so bad. And so this process of decentralization, giving power to the local leadership to run the affairs of their areas, like you have city taxes, right, which is oftentimes geared towards the mayor. The mayor office operates out of with that and help build their cities. You have state, since you're on the United States side, you have
Mhm.
states taxes that is paid, and the state use that taxes, and then you have central, federal taxes. Not to compare Liberia to the United States because we're two different countries, but for
Mhm.
the sake of just Liberia and the United States relationship, I'm just going to use the United States for a minute. We should have similar structure in our development or in our governance plan. We have
Right.
got to allow local leadership the power to run their affairs of their communities, their counties, their cities, and not to always just depend on Monrovia for everything. And when we can do that, you'll see the counties will then start being developed because the
So
people
that
have, yes,
no, I was just about to say, so that is your vision on decentralization there.
that and many more, absolutely. But for the sake of time, we'll focus on those two. Having
Yeah. All right.
the
So
agencies, yeah, there, and having power to run affairs of the area there as well.
thank you, folks. Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony CA, hosting my guest, Madam MacDella Cooper, former presidential candidate. She prides herself as the angel of Liberia. And talking about angel, I saw that on your website and I read it. I said, okay, we got an angel here. This is exciting. Let me show you something here. I don't know, is that why you call yourself an angel? Folks, this is your sister uh, who actually is trying to provide leadership in Liberia. So why you call yourself an angel? Let
Anthony, I
decompress
must
a little
say,
bit.
I
Why you
did
call
not
yourself an
coin that
angel?
phrase for myself. I
Uh-huh.
had nothing to do with coining that phrase. My
Okay.
former university, the university I attended in the United States, I was so privileged to have gotten a four-year academic scholarship to attend the College of New Jersey.
Right.
Mind you, when I left Liberia, I was a dirt poor refugee. I didn't have any money. I went to a public school and I did very well. I graduated number 3 out of 1,200 students in my class. And so I was awarded a scholarship, of full academic scholarship, as well as a partial athletic scholarship.
Mhm.
And so I was so privileged because without that, I wouldn't have ever been able to afford to go to university. And so I went to the College of New Jersey. I was a great student, really a great student. That I can say for myself, I was a good student. And my professor from the communications department
Mhm.
started to refer to me as the angel of Liberia. And so that's where that name came from Kim Patterson, Kim Pearson, professor of the communication journalism department, started to call me the angel of Liberia. And my university did a huge article on me. And so that name continued in that article. And from there, that article just went on. So it was academic. It was
Okay.
academia that actually coined that phrase for me.
All right.
But they were right. I
Congratulations.
am the angel of Liberia. Thank
All
you.
right, you should be. Let get some comments from our viewers, and then we will now get your assessments on the Weah administration. Let's make this a little more interactive. This
Mhm.
is from Sidiki Son Kamara. Thanks. We are watching from Sierra Leone. And Jackie Sayer, great grandmothers are our
Yes.
source.
Yes.
That Jackie right there. Jerome Galeman, the more the better. All right, this is from Jimmy Eastman. Hi, MacDella.
Hi, Jimmy.
Yeah, then Jerome Galeman again. Young lady, you are so articulate and clear. Bravo. And this is from Joanna Johnson Winker, I believe. Mandela Cooper, you supported. We are. How could they have called you? Why? Yeah, that's what the person wrote. Let me see this one. That is Madam Winker again. I would like to see you working with the opposition, but sis, you need to tell us where you stand. In Liberia, politics like binary, right? You got to be
No,
this or
sure.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jerome Goodman, majority of these some people did. Let me see this one here from Dennis. Dennis, right? Wow, she is very knowledgeable on the issues of Liberia and its political spectrum of problems. And I am sure she can be a great leader. I advise you to join other good leaders so as to make a way. No one makes it alone.
Yeah.
Well, your reaction, and then we'll get to your assessment of the Weah administration.
Well, no, I want to make this very clear. I am with the opposition bloc.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I have not joined is the collaborating political parties yet.
Mm-hmm.
But again, all those guys know they're my brothers, they're my friends. We talk as often as we can. As a matter of fact, we do a lot together. I just supported Doris Dillon from the Liberty Party. I supported Yomni Conga Lawrence also from Liberty Party. I supported independent candidates from the opposition bloc. So I'm working with the opposition bloc. It's just what I start to explain is that we have to, if we're going to be the opposition, we have to be strong. We have to continue to collaborate. We can't leave people out. MacDella Cooper is a strong force within Liberia's body politics as well as geopolitics and continental politics across the continent of Africa. To have totally disregarded that this woman exists. This woman has a vast knowledge in the political landscape. Because I come from a philanthropic humanitarian background, I know the struggle of the people. And the women of Liberia wants a female representation in all levels of decision making, whether in the private sector or in the public sector. We need to be conscious, and that was my concern with the establishment of the political party, the collaborating political parties. But we talked. I was at the Darius Dillon's last senatorial election, finale. I guess the close of his election, and I was
Right.
with my very good friend, who's now the head of Unity Party, um, Modad, and Ben Ayuri. We were all there together, and Evie Joseph Okai was not present, but his wife is a dear friend of mine, and so we were all on the stage together, because to show opposition unity. We are united. But I was just saying, and to make it very clear, at the establishment of the CPP, there were no women in the lineup. Only until Brumskin passed away, when Brumskin got sick, that was when they put Yummy Kanga Lawrence there. But she was not a first pick. And I don't want to say that to make a controversial statement. It would have made me happy if they said, okay, we got Yummy Kanga Lawrence here at the start, at the commence, the beginning. Not because Brumsky is ill now, he's leaving. So, okay, that feels sorry for the woman poor there. We shouldn't be a second pick. There should be a conscious mindedness. I start a political party, but I still support men. I support young people. We have to make sure we build a Liberia that is inclusive. And that's why I fight against anything that is not inclusive. We have to bring in the educated people and the uneducated people alike. We have to bring in the women and the men. We have to bring in the young people because they also have innovative mindset that we, the older people, may not necessarily have. And so I want an inclusive governance system in Liberia, not a lopsided where these old men are just hanging out and they leave the young people and the women out. We will not tolerate that Liberia anymore. And so I want to make that very clear because that's the only way we can have real policies and the right policies pushed in the absence of that, we're just going to be doing the same old thing, trying to find solutions, but the solutions will never be found.
All right. Madam MacDella Cooper there. She is my guest, and we are having an exclusive interview with her. Now, let's come to your assessment on the Weah administration, and let me show you something here. These are the things we will try to run through here as quickly as we can, probably in 15 minutes or so. We will look at the government information, uh, human rights records, what I mean by rights record, and the image of the country under the CDC, the economy and living standard, job creation and employment, provisions and maintaining of social services, fostering reconciliation, fighting corruption, transparency, security, and the rule of law. Let's see if we can go through those as quickly as we can. So Weah was elected, and he formed a government, and we know how that government looks. How does it look to you? Can you hear
Well,
me?
I voiced out my opinion on so many, and my position on this in so many
Mm-hmm.
different ways. Number one, the formation of the government was again another boys' club with a bunch of friends, people who are liked and people who had done favors for the way as I guess campaign had gotten positions in the government. But one thing I didn't see them putting forward was a plan as to how they were going to move Liberia forward. They have made it very clear. I spoke, was in areas or listened to a conversation that was had by the finance minister, where he continued to use a statement that he inherited a poor economy. And I oftentimes would say, but yes, that's why you were elected, to make a better economy, right? So what you met there, you got to make better, because that's why people trusted you and voted for you, versus those of us who are not voted in. And so I think the formation of the government was, they didn't leave one seat on filled. But now the plan, how that team was going to move the country forward, was never made visible. And still today, 3 years later, we're going to the third or fourth State of the Nation address, and I still don't see a plan from the Weah's government.
The formation I'm talking about here is the caliber of appointees, of officials, of individuals represented at the various agencies of government. Uh, are they the best that they can do, in your opinion, or you think they can do better than that?
Well, listen, a lot of folks came and took, they were appointed in the position that, they were not necessarily, they didn't have experience in the area. But
Mm-hmm.
again, any leadership, and I want to make this very clear because I know government folks are listening. And so I want to make this very clear. You can have a whole cabinet who've never functioned in a role before. And once you have a tangible plan to say, this is what I want you to go and do. There are people who have gone to war and they've never fought a war before. But because their general had a plan of action, they went to war and they were victorious in the war. So it's not because you have a 20-year in a particular agency means you're going to come and do the right thing for Liberia. And so, the whole concept of around Weah and his rise to power was based on the fact that because he was not your ordinary politician, similar thing that happened in the United States,
Right.
the unconventional politician, he was not an unconventional politician, he was different. He was the boy from Gibraltar. He, made for himself a life in Europe playing football, came back and won Africa Best. The young people saw that as hope. And so his rise to the presidency was based on that hope that he will take the rest of these young people who are so disenfranchised to another level as he did for himself. And so I was waiting, although he was not your conventional politician, I was waiting to see the Weah-led government's plan for Liberia and how he was going to build an economy or build a team that was going to move Liberia into the right direction to fulfill the hope that these young people had seen him. And since they ran on the concept of change, there was going to be some tangible change made by these, him and his team. So the argument of the inexperienced ministers that have never been in such a post, I didn't quite see that as the problem. What I saw as a problem was that they came in, rushed in, no plan, scramble, took for themselves what they could scramble in a short period of time, became rich overnight, and the young men and women who stood in the rain, in the sunshine, trying to get President Weah into leadership, they were still out in the cold. And Weah and his cronies were becoming rich overnight. And so I'm not too worried about the team that he put in place with a lack of experience. I was worried about the plan he had for Liberia to move our economy forward, to make our healthcare system a little better. Where it was known to have contacts across the world, but where has those contacts taking us? The medical healthcare and medical and healthcare system is still extremely broken. The education system was put in the hands of Dowsoni, has not done anything besides raise money for his own private school. And so, yes, it was okay that he brought in people who are not the experienced politicians, but they enriched themselves and they still have no plan to advance Liberia.
You are a globalist.
Absolutely.
Image matters in
Yeah,
global affairs.
that's right.
If you look at Liberia today, is our image being tinted or being cleaned?
Massively, massively tainted. We are a nation that looks like we have no idea what we're doing. We did the right thing by electing someone who brought inspire hope, but at the same time, the things are going a direction that we didn't hope for. Meaning we don't have a good leadership right now. We're not participating in anything that we should be participating in. Our leadership shown to be weak, extremely weak. We have a president who now is making music more than making pushing policies. And we didn't elect a musician, we elected a head of state to go and advocate on behalf of the nation, to present the brightest Liberia in its brightest light. And so, yes, our reputation, our position in the world has declined. We went from having an 85% underemployment rate to having a hardcore 85% unemployment rate. And there's a difference between underemployed, meaning you have access to informal jobs, you're
Mhm.
still making money, but you're not formally employed on records. And so when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration came in place, she brought a ton of NGOs. She brought in so many companies to come and invest in Liberia, and people had drivers, housekeepers, maids, security. Now all of those individuals are unemployed, and so the companies and NGOs are leaving. All those NGOs are leaving Liberia. People don't see Liberia today as it did 3 or 4 years ago.
Madam Cooper, President Weah, I agree with you to his credit, make himself. He made himself, a hero when he was playing football, to the point that he was being viewed as this peaceful guy, this ambassador of peace.
Yeah.
So, talking about fostering reconciliation, has he been able to foster reconciliation in Liberia? If not, why you think is responsible for what I want to call his inability to do so?
Well, I think President Weah, he trusts too many people around him instead of trusting himself. And if I were appointed to be his advisor, and I would advise him, don't trust people as much as you are trusting them now. You can designate responsibility, but as a leader, it is your duty to have SOS, security on security. Have people watching what other people are doing, people reporting to you, giving you their views, to see that if you employ a minister to the Ministry of Education, make sure he is implementing what he's saying. And that is the difference. And I think um, reconciliation cannot happen because when the people, you have Weah and his cronies, his friends, they are driving around in big cars, they are living in big mansions that they didn't have about 4 years ago. They are rich, they have two, three, four houses, and Liberian people are still trying to eat one bowl of dry rice per day. There's no reconciliation, in that until you can provide access to jobs, access to resources, so that we have absolutely no money in the banks. So even for those of us who have our own money, we cannot access our money. You think we're going to be reconciled with a government that is rich and have access to all the cash? There are 16 billion cash missing. There's the two different what do you call it, stimulus packages that is missing, 25 million, 30 million. They're missing. Where's our money? And today now, because Liberian people are too meek to do something about it, today we are feeling the ripple effect of the 16 billion, of this million missing. And so there could be no reconciliation with this Weah's administration and the Liberian people. As you can see, we just hosted a midterm senatorial election, and we made sure we went to the polls and did not vote for Weah's parties and candidates. Only 3 out of 15 I heard won the elections. That is a clear message to say, we put hope in you, Mr. Weah. We trusted you were going to have the heart of the Liberian people, because we saw when you didn't have power, you had the heart of Liberian people in your hands. And now that we've made you the president, you are sitting on your resort and your cronies are ripping the country apart, and you are doing nothing. Only after you have lost the midterm senatorial election, then now we got your attention as a leader. And so, I think this was a clear message sent to Mr. Weah, and I hope this was a wake-up call for him, because you cannot, just because you like these guys, they're your friends, they're your homeboy, you put them in a position of power, and you allow them to rip our country. We will take the country back from you and your cronies. And that's my position, and that's the position of most Liberian people today.
When you heard about the death of the auditors and
That's right.
the
The
three
four
missing
auditors.
boys, the four auditors and the three missing boys, and to today's date, there has not been any conclusive investigation as to what happened.
That's right.
Do you fear the worst?
Well, I'm not a person who goes anywhere near the word fear, so I cannot attach that to me to answer that question.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is, you know, during the death of the four auditors, this is when I thought President Weah was going to stand up and be the leader that we all hope he will be. He needs to, and like you said in the last question, he's a peaceful man. He doesn't like problems, so he likes to avoid problems. But he has given his cronies too much of a leg room in Liberia, and so they're taking authority that they never won through an electoral process in their hands, and they're acting as if they're the president of the Republic of Liberia. And now he needs to step up, stand up, and step up to now take the authority out of their hands into his own hands if he wants to continue as the president of this nation in the next 3 years. Because right now he's designating his power to too many people who do not have the same intentions that he started off with, which was to bring Liberia into a better place. These individuals are there riding on his success to better off themselves, rip the country, kill people who they feel can testify against them. And so, listen, as much as I'm a strong opposition to George Weah, I don't particularly believe that he killed those individuals or ordered those individuals to be killed. But like I said, he needs to stand up and be the leader that the Liberian people voted him to be, and investigate. And if you should find any of his cronies guilty of the murders of those individuals, those 6 or 7 individuals, he needs to penalize them to the fullest and set an example so that nobody else within his government or his camp to repeat the same thing. And this is what leadership is all about. Sometimes you have to make very hard decisions that may not be popular, but for the sake of the nation, you have to make those decisions. And this is what we're all waiting to see. President Weah will stand up and put a strong investigation behind the deaths of those auditors. Those were valuable individuals to our country. Those were valuable individuals, including a young man that supposedly went down in a canoe. He should stand up and he should make sure innocent Liberians are not losing their lives because of other people's greed. And so this is where I think Weah is failing all of us, because we are constantly thinking he can do this, he can do this, he can do this, and he does nothing. He goes to a studio and make a song.
Wow. 2 questions here. One, are you surprised at the scale of President Weah accumulation of personal wealth and properties around Monrovia. That's the first one. And you're laughing. The second one is, have you ever believed in President Weah for national leadership? If you did, do you still believe in him? Because CDC is calling for a recalibration. I will use the word resuscitate because politically I think they are dead. Do
They're
you
dead.
think that recalibration can come under Weah's leadership? Sorry, I gave you too much. Go for it.
No, it's fine. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
I think your question has to what I believe. Listen, the we are here to serve the general public,
Okay.
and we have to be respectful to the public's desire because we live in a country that preaches and practice democracy.
Mhm.
And I like to define democracy as a type of rule that is for the people. It was created by the people and is of the people. So it belongs to the people. That's our government. Democracy is our government.
Certainly.
Now, if you look at what the people was looking for after you had this incredibly brilliant woman named Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, whatever side of the coin you at with her doesn't matter at this point. She was brilliant. She was Harvard educated. She knew how to charm her way through anything, and she knew how to get results for Liberia. When she went out, she brought things home. She brought development. She brought peace. She was able to get all those folks who was fighting the war. There was at some point there were 16 warring factors. They all had to work together under one government to move Liberia into a peaceful place. So for 12 years, we had a peaceful Liberia after the war. I don't think anyone else could have done that besides Madame Sirleaf. But the people of Liberia said, enough is enough. We don't want any more of these educated people. They are too educated. They know too much. We want our own. They went to the polls, and the people desire to have Mr. Weah as their head of state. We had to respect the will of the people. And when I saw the people behind Weah, we said, well, let the people have what the people want. And so the people got what they wanted. You see, it's not look, we're in the opposition, we must understand. We're gonna preach all the messages, but what the people want is what the people will push for. And so we supported what the people wanted. I think you can remember in the second round of the presidential debate in 2017,
Mhm.
my group went ahead and supported West
Yeah.
over Joseph Boakai. The reality is, Joseph Boakai had called me and said, MacDella, I need your support. And I said, I will be happy to give you my support. But then when I tried to follow up with his team never followed up with me. I called several times. And so when my team came to me and said, Madam Cooper, we the youth would like to go in the direction of President Weah or Weah, I said, well, look, you guys can go ahead. And they said, Madam, you are our leader. We are not going to go without you. And in that case, I knew this was serious. The Liberian people wanted Weah to be their president. And so I walked in the CDC yard to give my support to CDC candidate, the collaborating, whatever the coalition of democratic change. We gave our support and they won because my team knew they were going to win. And so in terms of your question now, did we see Weah as a potential leader of Liberia? Not necessarily. He was brilliant at football. He had made himself. He had accomplished a lot in life. You know, that story was a selling point for Liberia. And it was, again, another first for Liberia and first of the world, because in the entire world, there has never been a footballer who rose to the position of presidency. And so Liberia became the first to do that. And so we've had that. And we don't plan to continue with it after 2023. But the will of the people was met. And that's what we must always respect.
Thank you so very much, folks in cyberspace. Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony C. hosting. We have been in an exclusive conversation with Madam MacDella Cooper. Well, time is fast spent. I want to keep going, but I see management telling me I have to call it off here. Quickly, this is my last question.
Sure.
Tune, political tune, the way we communicate.
Yeah.
Let me give you some apple and oranges around that, or munya, dancing. We don't have the market, all that, and then the lies in politics. You have to speak as though you are a warrior on this front, trying to engage and not a gladiator for people to
Yeah.
take you serious. I don't see you doing that. Those who do that, they get the biggest attention.
Yeah.
But those kind of ways of communicating don't get us to doing the substantive things that we need. My final question, I want you to talk to the Liberian people now. How, talking to them on that subject, can we change our way of looking at things?
Well, that's a brilliant question, and I think we are first. We have to understand we're a culture of we like entertainment, we like dance, we like music, and so
Right.
people mix everything up. And then plus, we also have this massive demographic of our country that are uneducated. So you have to also know that we, the so-called educated people, when we talk about policies, people
Mm-hmm.
don't understand what all of that means. Oh, what is policy? What is the policy? What, they don't even know what, most people don't even know what the word policy means, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so you have to put it into physical actions. You have to put it, people still go back to ancient of days, gladiator days. The strongest
Mm-hmm.
survival, the fitness, what is it? The survival of the
Survival
fittest.
of the fittest.
And so it all goes back to our failed education system within our country where people cannot
Mm-hmm.
read. That's why we have to use images. So you dance and the person feel, oh, that person is happy. And then when you speak,
Yeah.
they don't understand what you're saying, but with a vibrancy, they feel, oh, the
Mm-hmm.
Baku is strong, right? So
Yeah.
it all goes back to the psychology. So a lot of times you're speaking, but they're not understanding you. But when you're beating the
Mm-hmm.
table, you're saying all these things that you have no idea. This is what our people understand. So in one side of the thing, until we change the education system, we always going to have that particular action in our body politics. And so for me, it's important to do both. Talk about the policies on education. Talk about the healthcare, the need for healthcare, better healthcare. Talk about the need for women to lower the birth rate in Liberia. Talk about the need to protect our children and educate them. So you say those things for those who can understand it, but now you've given me a little bit of insight. When I get to the villages, I'm gonna make sure I be talking, strong. So people can say, Baku, you strong. Because until Baku, you strong, they don't take you seriously in Liberian politics, right? And so we have to practice a little bit of the truth.
Yeah.
Because again, sometimes when I go to the villages and I do an hour long conversation, Anthony, I'm telling you, my brain is hurting because when you finish speaking out English, they better about English. For 1 hour, you speaking that better about English and trying to explain your manifesto to the woman in the villages there. The woman there will
Right.
ask you plenty of questions, and sometimes you even
I
use
know.
translator. And when you finish with that one there, then you go back to Monrovia now on a radio where you have to speak proper English or come to talk to someone like
Right.
you from the United States. You you're
Right.
you're you're in. I'm still in here. You yeah, sorry. So you're
Yeah.
in
No,
this
that's
sort
okay.
of, yes, you're in this bubble, and so
Yeah.
the sort of, and I will tell you this much: although CDC has lost their grace, they're falling from grace. Like you talk
Mm-hmm.
about all these properties that they have today, it's too much. They were not cool
So much.
about it. You were in a rental house before. Now you're in government. However, way you gain that money, whether it was legit, you don't have to expose yourself. But this is when, in the international world, we call this the nouveau riche, the new rich person. They don't know how to diversify their income. They don't know how to build trust funds for their family. So when they leave government, they're not on the street taking taxi or pimping or keke. They just start putting everything in their clothes, in their watches. Some of the ministers, they want to see their watches. I said, now, how will you go to the United Nations to advocate on behalf of Liberia? To say my country is a dirt poor country, but we desire to have a better education system, a healthcare. Please help my country. Can you pass some policies within the United Nations body or amongst the international community that will help bring some resources to my country? When the people that take out their wash and you see the big gold wash on their head, my brother. Now, if I was the head of the United Nations, I'd tell the person, pass your set, go sit down because that big gold wash I can save the whole country. It's distasteful. This is a mere showcase of those who are newly rich. They never
Mm-hmm.
had resources, so they feel they gotta wear it. Their husband be big. Some are living in the sea, ratting home. We're living for a long time. Whether you got $10 million or you got $2, you still live in the same house. So, Anthony, this is the nouveau riche idea. CDC has brought a lot of people to the table with money, and they just don't know how to control themselves.
Madam Gov't, we can't thank you enough for honoring our invitation. Let's keep the conversation going. We here focus on Liberia. I appreciate you coming and taking these questions. You on this journey, and this journey is not just your journey; it's every Liberian.
That's right.
Journey. So let's journey together, even though from different capacities. I'm just sitting here, just asking the question, and you are explaining yourself how we can better our country. We thank you for coming. All right, folks in cyberspace, that way do it for us here. I focus on Liberia, but before I close here quickly, let me let you know what we got coming very soon. This coming Sunday, that is the 24th, Focus on Liberia is starting a brand new show called The Liberian Dream. All of us want to live the American dream. Where is our Liberian dream? The goal of this program is for us Liberians to start talking about a Liberian dream, because that's how it starts. When you start talking about a Liberian dream, then you will start working for it. Yeah. Leo Johnson is the host of this show live here at Focus on Liberia. In episode 1, we'll be talking about the current state of Liberian citizenship. What is our cultural understanding of who we are? Leo will be able to drive that conversation. Community-driven solutions from the Liberian perspective. Leo will be talking about that. And also, here I focus on Liberia. Do I have that one? No, I don't have that one. And so, folks, that is what is coming. We thank you for watching our show. Again, Madam Cooper, we cannot thank you enough for honoring our invitation here. We have a music for you, Madam Cooper, before you go. I'm sure you're going to like this music. Just bear with me here. You will certainly love this music. It's called We Are All Liberian. And that is the song that is taking us home. I'm Anthony C, and I'll see you in the next 15 minutes. We have another show coming up, and I'm busy today. Bye-bye, folks.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.